everybody. I wanted to go ahead and break down how to access the library database because it can be really overwhelming and confusing. So I just kind of wanted to take you through the steps. Now, a couple of things that you want to keep in mind with secondary sources is that they must be credible. Absolutely must be credible. So, if you use sources in your first essay, I noticed some of us were using some Wikipedia, some .coms. Those are definitely not credible sources. And for my 101, you were not required to use sources, but my 104, you were. And I want to make sure that we're using credible sources that is scholarly academic research to back up our claims. So if you hear my animals in the background, I apologize. They're a little rowdy this morning. So what is a credible source? A credible source is basically anything that is a scholarly peer-reviewed article. So we want to make sure we have a .edu, .gov, or .org. If you have one of those three, you should be fine. .com, .net, .anything else is considered not credible. So we want to make sure that we're accessing the right databases. How do we do that? Just go to the VVC library. It works perfectly. So if you click on your quiz 9, the link is now there for the library database that you have access to. It will prompt you to log in, so make sure to do that if you're, working from home and stuff. And all you got to do is log in with your VVC credentials. So there's a bunch of different databases here for you. I would recommend using, we can just start off with Academic Search Complete. That is EBSCOhost. It's a pretty good one. EBSCOhost, JSTOR, Gale Reference Library as well. So here I would start typing in God Help the Child. This is for, essay 2, right? So we've got God Help the Child by Toni Morrison. Go ahead and click search or enter, and a bunch of articles are going to pop up for you. So we want to make sure, are these going to be helpful for our essay and the topics that we want to talk about or not? So here, one is titled Reading in the Wake, Empathy Debates the Reader and Toni Morrison's God Help the Child. Do we want to read this? I don't know. Let's see what it's about. So we have this thing called an abstract. Now, an abstract is just a fancy word for a summary. So let's see. Toni Morrison's 2015 novel, God Help the Child, complicates both naive celebrations and outright rejections of empathy as one of the goals, explicating the protagonist bride's journey as a primer in empathy. I argue that in centering a Black protagonist as an every reader, Morrison undermines the implicit whiteness of both the reader and the subject. Okay, so this article right here is doing more of a metacognitive approach to the reader's interpretation and like centering of the whiteness of the reader themselves. So if you're not interested in that, go ahead and just click back and move on. If you're interested in that's actually really interesting. You might want to dig into that. Let's look at some other ones. Skin Deep, Toni Morrison's interrogations of beauty from the bluest eye to God Help the Child. Okay, this might be a good one. The Bluest Eye is another novel by Toni Morrison. So that's another thing too. You want to make sure that you're actually getting sources that are relevant to the novel that you're reading. In the past with this essay in particular, I have had students talk about a number of different works and quote and then apply it to Bride, which they weren't talking about that novel at all. So you want to make sure your sources match with what you're saying too. So go ahead and click on this. This is going to be talking about, because Bride is a child who was too Black for society, for her mother, right? A Sudanese Black. There's a lot going on with her Blackness here that we can definitely analyze. So the abstract here. This article focuses on the narration of beauty of African diaspora by novelist Toni Morrison in her novels like The Bluest Eye and God Help the Child. Now, this article is referencing 2 of her novels. That's okay. We've got the key novel here, which makes this article okay for us to use. Topics include focus on Black struggle, the triumph of Black female subjectivity, and debunking the concept of white hegemonic beauty, which is really important because when we understand, what is beauty according to us, well, they're really westernized concepts of beauty, right? If you just type into Google, like take a pause from this video right now and Google Western beauty standards, it will pop up
on the website projects.iq.harvard.edu. They say, again, having big breasts, large eyes, a small nose, and high cheekbones. To find out more,
a long list of being white, tall, skinny, blonde hair, blue eyes, all of these specific traits that are considered beautiful. But according to Western standards, if we look at different parts of the world, beauty is very different. So when Bride looks at herself and says, okay, well, I'm not beautiful because I'm not white and tall and blonde and all of these things, that internalization of ugliness is very pervasive, and it really hinders her development as a character, right? So, white hegemonic beauty is a really big thing in this novel. So, if you're interested in this topic, excellent. Go ahead and use this one. So all you have to do is click on the source or the article if it's available here. I have a feeling this article is not going to be available, so let's click and find out. And it's taking us, yeah, okay. This happens sometimes and it's really annoying. So maybe we can't access this one. You can search within the publication and then do a complicated search, like that. But maybe we can try that and copy paste in the title of the article, and let's see if we can find it. It's just taking us to the same thing. Okay, so this article is not available to us. I at least can't access it. So don't get discouraged. This happens. It's kind of annoying, but it happens. It's part of the research process. So let's keep scrolling. Let's find something that's going to be helpful. The Secret of Bride's Body in Toni Morrison's God Help the Child. Okay, see, this one is also unavailable. What I'm noticing here is that if we see there's a PDF full text, click on the ones that say PDF full text, okay? Um, this is going to be where you want to click. So this one, academic journal, I'm assuming this means you have to go into the actual library to access that, and we're not going to do that. So Conjuring Aesthetic Blackness. This is actually one of the articles I was going to provide to you, and this is a very, very good article because it talks about specifically um, the state of being a Black person in God Help the Child in order for her to conjure and exercise the terror of being a Black person, so as to permit her Black protagonist to come to terms with the stigma of their skin color. So there's a lot of stigma regarding being, quote, too Black, right? Like we mentioned earlier, there's this focus of the object. So this is a really good article. I typically, provide this for my students as well. And after this assignment closes, I will be providing you with a couple of articles for you to use in your essays. I need you to research it on your own too. So what we do is we click on PDF full text, and it will pop up here, and all you got to do is click download, and now you have it, right? So it's really important to download it and then open it in here, because here's the thing, this is what you're going to do. You're going to read it, but also there's kind of a lot to read through, and we want to work smarter, not harder. So if we want to, if you're going to write an essay focusing on Bride's, Blackness or whatever, let's go ahead and type into the Control F function the word Black. Okay, we're seeing it too much here. So then maybe we can type in trauma. Let's see how often that only appears 23 times. So where is the trauma regarding the Blackness? So we've got the bluest eye. Okay, let's skip it because we can already tell by the works here, it's not even talking about our book. But here, we're talking about Black motherhood and the attending trauma. So, Lula Ann Bridewell's experience illustrates the idea that childhood trauma or sins return like lingering ghosts to visit and haunt their subjects in adult life. Do you remember that quote in the novel where she says, I sold my elegant Blackness to all those childhood ghosts? I think that's what this is referencing. So, I personally love this article. I think it's really good. And when in a traditional classroom, I would print it and give it to you all, and we would analyze it together in class to help analyze the novel. So this is a really good one. And that's how you find articles, right? It's kind of a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of them work. You find an article that you're like, hey, this is really good. And then you find out it's unavailable and you're like, great, let me find it somewhere else. So if that ever happens to you, you can look into different ones. Remember, this is just one database. There are a lot of other databases. There's Gale, there's JSTOR should be available too. Yeah, JSTOR, Arts and Sciences, right? So if you click on that, but if we go back here, we want to make sure that we are citing the work for our works cited as well. So let me move my face over here. This is the really cool part about using the library database because our works cited are very, very important to avoid plagiarism and to avoid assholes of the future, right? Who might report you for plagiarism. So we want to cite. Once you find the article that you like, you click cite. For EBSCOhost, it's over here on the right hand side. And then you just copy MLA ninth edition. Copy, paste that into your works cited. You are done. Your job is done. So I would do this as soon as you find your articles, because take it from somebody who's made that mistake in the past. If you go back for the works cited information later, you might have a really hard time just finding that article that you were initially looking for. Okay, so another database I wanted to show you all was JSTOR. JSTOR is one of my personal favorites. Okay, so we've already taken the route of looking up Toni Morrison very specifically, right? Another route that we can take is to look up journal articles that have to do with the topics that we're discussing. So we can talk about maybe Western beauty standards and the black body. Let's look that up actually. Okay, so if we look at this idea, Western beauty standards and the black body, right? We can take concepts and apply them to Morrison's novel specifically. So this article here, hey girl, am I more than my hair? African American women and their struggles with beauty, body image, and hair. Okay, does Bride struggle with this? Absolutely. The key words here are Afrocentric theory, Black beauty liberation, body image, hair, racism, standpoint theory, white beauty. Okay, this is all very important, especially because Bride goes through this weird like loss of hair, right? Which is very metaphorical in and of itself. So you can go ahead and take this, you can download it here, you can cite it here, MLA, copy, paste into your works cited, and you should be good to go. So there's different approaches that you can do. So for example, the race lighting article I had you all read, you can definitely use that for this essay. It has nothing to do with God Help the Child, but we're making it have something to do with God Help the Child, right? So I would say try to have at least a minimum of one article that focuses specific, one or two. I prefer two, honestly. That focus specifically on God Help the Child. So try to have two articles that focus on God Help the Child, and then you can find other articles to kind of help talk about your topic. So let me know if you have any questions about any of this. This is how we research. It's again, it's a pain in the ass, but it's going to be worth it once you are able to find the quotes that you need. And I will be posting some articles for you all by next week as well, once the quiz closes for you all, because I want you to do some research. That's the purpose of the quiz. Okay, I really hope you guys are enjoying the reading and the content too, because God Help the Child is a very, very important book to me, and I think for the world to just kind of realize, hey, Black, Indigenous people of color, westernized beauty and expectations, they don't match up necessarily, which leads to a lot of years of unpacking trauma and internalized, like, self-hatred and loathing for not being the pretty, westernized ideal of whatever, society dictates. So let me know if you have questions. Good luck.